and welcome to Luca Sprues. In today's video we're going to be doing a inbox review of ESCI's 1/72nd scale Jagdpanzer 38T, better known as the Hetzer. This particular one appears to be a release from 1977 according to ScaleMates, so it is a bit of an older kit. So without further ado, let's have a closer look at this vintage kit. So as usual with my inbox reviews, we'll have a look at the box, followed by the instructions, and then we'll have a look at the plastic parts and the decals. So starting out with the box, as you can see we have a very nice picture of a Hetzer out in the middle of a muddy field by a lake, with a little bit of countryside in the background and a few mountains. And the tank itself appears to be done in a sort of grey, green and brown camouflage pattern with some streaks of yellow and white on it, which is a bit interesting. It also got a lot of dead branches and stuff on it to try and hide it from air attack, I suppose, although it does look a little bit obvious sticking out in the middle of the field there. And we've got our commander sitting up here with the headphones on, and he's wearing a sort of smock. And we've got the titles here, which refer to it as German Tank 38T Hetzer, which, yeah, it's not the most accurate name, but you know what you're going to get. In the corner here, it says we get one model kit and 2 figures, which is pretty cool. You don't usually get figures these days with tank kits, which I think is a real shame. On the side here, just some other products from ESCI's range, which we may have a look at in the future if you guys are interested, and I can obviously find examples of. Repeat of the box art on the top there with some old price tags, although sadly they've been scratched out, so can't really see what they were originally. And on the top, yet more different model kits in ESCI's range. And yet again on this side here, another repeat of the box art. And on the back, a repeat again of the box art, so it's kind of double-sided. Opening up now, it's sort of in a plastic wrapping, which I've yet to remove it from. You can sort of peel it away, and then as typical with these kits, you can just open the side here, and we have a plastic bag here containing our sprues along with some rubber band tracks and some decals. And then further in here we have our instructions, which are a little bit crumpled somehow, but maybe they'll put back a little bit awkwardly because I do think this one was unsealed. So looking closer at the instructions, on the front we just have a black and white picture of the Hetzer from the box art along with the same title. And then we have a few specifications including the crew count of 4, the weight of the vehicle when it enters combat at 17.6 tons, which is pretty heavy. Ground pressure, we've got dimensions for the tank and the armament along with the engine, which is all cool. And we've even got a little bit of performance data. Opening up, we then have our sprue map here with all of the part numbers. And we have a nice couple of pictures of the Hetzer with, looks like a little motorbike crew going by, and they appear to be in the forest with a little village in the background. And opening up, we have another picture here in the corner of a Hetzer driving through a crowded street. A little bit unclear and in black and white, but it's still pretty cool that they include these little references as a bit of inspiration and maybe even some ideas for dioramas. And then we have our assembly, which is a little bit crowded onto these really small sections, but we start off with the base plate of the vehicle for the bottom kind of plate, and then we have these 2 side pieces which we connect along with a rear plate. There's a little floor section that goes on the inside here, and then you've obviously got your rather fiddly and small suspension with the leaf springs there that connect to the hull, and we've got a little centerpiece here for where the drive sort of transmission is, or final drive I think, and where it meets the sprockets, which come in 2 pieces. Then we've got a single return roller, another set of leaf-sprung suspension at the back there, and 2 pieces for our idler, and obviously you've got to repeat that assembly for the other side. Moving on to step 2, we have a single piece here for the upper part of the vehicle, with a little locking plate for each side of the gun, which locks it into place, but should allow a bit of vertical motion, I believe. And of course we've got the famous pig's head mantlet for the front there. And we've got a little counterbalance piece for the front of the barrel, which hopefully should have a little hole in it as well to add a little bit of extra detail for the cannon barrel. For step 3, we're assembling the hull basically by adding this front plate piece here, followed by the top part there, along with some extra little details such as the storage and the covers for the vision slits for the driver there, the headlamp, and then a little rail system here for, I believe, protecting the gunner's sight. And we've also got our little side skirts and another back plate piece here, or mudguard. And finally, you've got the tracks here, which the instructions are telling you to use a hot metal screwdriver, which I'm sure caused a lot of injuries back in the day, to weld these track pieces together. On the other side, we have a lot more little accessories here, including the scissor scope, which appears to be sort of retracted, optional hatches, which can be opened, including the commanders and I guess the gunners as well, or loaders hatch. I'm not too sure whose hatch that is officially, but I guess everyone's using just the two at the back there. Got optional extra add-on tracks with some plates or brackets to lock them in. Looks like a little antenna and part of the exhaust system. More tracks with little brackets to hold them on. Looks like an extra little plate piece of some kind to attach to this rear mudguard. More brackets here for holding stuff. Not too sure what this part is, possibly a mudguard or something. Or no, that's another part of the hatch, sorry. The instructions here are a little bit tricky to follow because they're very crowded. And finally, we've got some pioneering tools like this shovel there. And again, another side skirt for the side there, and another set of tracks. We have a very nice set of crew figures, a commander and then a regular crew member by the looks of things with the goggles. And of course, to make the antenna, it suggests you get a piece of sprue and then using a candle to heat it up, you stretch it out. And finally, we have a very vague painting guide here with various markings. Looks like there's sort of 4 different markings and then a painting guide for just the one. So in typical ESCI form, not very helpful. They've sort of got some vague suggestions for colours, but I would say you're probably a lot better finding real pictures of a Hetzer or a particular camouflage scheme for one and then doing it based on that rather than following this guide. So yeah, instructions, not the most helpful in terms of the markings, but everything else is alright. Even if it is a little bit crowded, you can still kind of see what's going on. So all of our parts come in this single plastic bag here, and it looks like we get 2 nice light grey, sandy kind of coloured moulded sprues, along with our decals and these rubber band tracks. So I'll start off with this sprue since it has the main body and all of our wheels. And as you can see, the detail on this is really quite nice. They've done a lot of raised riveting and all of those little brackets. They've done a really nice raised texture for the weld marks on the sides of each plate, and a nice degree of thickness for each one, being a bit thicker on the front there and a little bit thinner on the sides, which looks really quite good. Got some nice details on the mudguard there and some recessed weld marks for where they join to the other plates. And really nice details on the top. I like the recessed details there for the sort of part that slides with the gunner's sight. And some really nice recessed access hatches for the engine deck, and really nice grille details there for the exhaust system and the cooling. And yeah, really nice hatch details. A few of these hinges or the handles are a little bit basic, but you could probably cut them off and then replace them if you so wished. But out of the box, still some really nice details, especially considering the age of this kit. Then we've got our crew figures here, who are a little bit funky in some places, and their proportions look a little bit weird. But on the whole, they still look pretty nice. I really like their little folded over sort of Panzer issued jackets there, and the little holsters for their sidearms. And yeah, nice little details for their hands. They're all really quite cleanly moulded, although there are a few little spots of flash here and there. It's not too bad for these parts. And we've got a couple of road wheels here, not too many compared to other tank kits, but still a couple. And yeah, they've done raised details for all of these with a little kind of lip to make it a little bit easier to paint the rubber on the wheels there. So they look pretty good. Return rollers look quite nice as well, and we've got our sort of final drive covers there with some nice raised rivets. And our sprockets look pretty good. Unfortunately, it looks like some of the teeth are going to be lost because of the way they're molded to the sprue. They're a little bit difficult to remove. But yeah, they've drilled out straight through the holes, so that looks really quite good. And the raised details on them are quite fantastic as well. Both sets of sprockets are really nicely done, although there does appear to be a little bit of flash in some spots. It's nothing too major. And again, the idlers look really quite good. Looks like this one might have been a little bit bent or stressed, but hopefully it still holds its shape. For our second sprue here, we have the underside of the tank with some raised hatches and access ports, along with ESCI's logo and a little Made in Italy symbol. So you could sand that off if you really wanted to, but you're probably not going to really see too much of this under the tank. Then we've got our sides of the hull there, and there are a fair few ejector pin marks on this piece in particular. But fortunately, you're probably not going to see too many of them because the wheels are quite large on this tank. And for the inside of the lower hull there, or piece for the floor, you've got a little guide mark rail system here to help line up the floor. Then we've got a few smaller accessories, such as our leaf springs, all with some really nice recessed details on them and some good pins there for lining things up. Doesn't appear to be too many imperfections in general, although there are a few little spots that might need a little bit of sanding, but nothing too major. Got a fair few smaller accessories here for various brackets and looks like a few handles and sort of covers. Looks like part of the exhaust system here and the sight for the driver's hatch, which look quite nice. Got a nicely done machine gun here with the barrel is a little bit thick, but that's probably quite normal at this scale really. And looks like a little hatch or a bracket for holding the spare track links and some shovels there, or a shovel for a pioneering tool. A few more of the leaf springs, and then we've got our various hatches for the tank. Really nice exhaust shroud there by the looks of things, and even more brackets to hold the spare track links. We've got our main sort of cannon part here with what looks like some molded details for the hand wheels and a little bit of breech detailing. You're probably not going to see any of that really, but it is interesting that they've included it. Maybe it was for a little bit of detail, or perhaps for a bit of extra weight to the back. We've got our famous scissor periscope there, which appears to be in a sort of together position, but I believe they could extend out like a pair of scissors. So that's pretty cool. Nice inclusion for the kit, a good little accessory. We have our mudguards here, which I think the detail is, on this side here, with looks like a little toolbox with some nice raised details, and then some nice corrugations on them. We've got our mantlet there, which looks like it's got a bit of flash on it, which we'll have to get cleaned up. We've got our shield for the machine gun there. A plate here for the front of the tank by the looks of things, which has some ejector pin marks which might need to be sanded. And we've got our rear armoured panel with the access hatch for the engine there, looking quite nice with some really good raised details. And finally, we've got our side skirts with recesses between each of the panels and some raised rivets. And the floor piece for the interior of the tank, which has a bit of a anti-slip texture on it and some raised riveting, which is an interesting inclusion. Not too sure how accurate it is for the inside of a Hetzer, but it is probably mainly there for the crew to have something to stand on, but still interesting that they've done it. We have our rubber tracks, which appear to be in pretty good condition despite the age of this kit. I do know that a fair few of the ESCI kits I've built over the years have deteriorated and the tracks have been almost unusable. You sort of cut them off and then you staple them together and then they break somewhere else. They've sort of just become too brittle. Interestingly, our spare track links are also done in rubber. Usually they're done in plastic, but in this case they've obviously decided to just use the same kind of process for them. So that's interesting. They look quite nicely detailed really. Obviously not as good as perhaps resin tracks or plastic molded ones, but for rubber band tracks they're really quite nicely detailed there. And they do have a pretty solid looking joint, so perhaps they would work. Although I am thinking I might 3D print my own set of tracks anyways, just to get a little bit more detail and a bit more life out of the tracks. The last thing included in this kit are the decals, and we've got a few different markings. Unfortunately it's not explained what they're for. I mean, obviously they're for a Hetzer, but it doesn't explain what the units are or what particular tank they belong to. And in some cases, I think the ESCI markings can even be inaccurate. But we appear to have a set of Balkan crosses for one version with a white helmet, which I believe is one of the symbols for a unit. We've got another one here with white crosses, which is a little bit unusual for armoured vehicles. And the symbol for this particular one appears to be a horse with a sword. And then we have a set of Balkan crosses again for another tank with the number 244, so possibly a real vehicle that I can look up and see if it was real, with a unit marking that appears to be a black lion or a bear or something sort of raising up on its hind legs. And finally we've got another set of white crosses with a yellow kind of Y symbol. So for the most part decals look okay. There is a bit of yellowing which is to be expected given how old this kit is. Although some of the printing is also a little bit inaccurate, which again is kind of a staple of the time, with the black not quite lining up with the white in some sections. Considering the age and what they've been through, these are still pretty decent and I may still use them. So that pretty much wraps up our look at the ESCI Hetzer. Honestly, I have to say it is really quite a impressive looking kit to me. Although there have been a few more recent Hetzer tools from various brands, including things like Vespid and UMMT, this is still a pretty decent looking one in my opinion. And Italeri also reissued this particular tooling, but with some additional hard plastic tracks rather than the rubber band tracks, and also some much better decals and marking guides. So if you're interested in a nice little easy build of the Hetzer with some reasonable details, this is a pretty decent looking kit. I'm looking forward to having a go at this one and doing a build video for it. I'm planning to replace the rubber band tracks with some resin 3D printed ones, as well as do a 3D printed interior, as I like to do with my tank kits. So it probably will be a little while before I actually get around to doing this one by the time I've designed the interior, plus finished some other projects and dealt with other live stuff. But keep your eyes out, as I've said, I will do a video on it, and I look forward to doing that in the future. But otherwise, thank you very much for watching this video, and I do hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please be sure to leave a like and also subscribe to the channel, as it really helps out. A massive thank you, as always, to my wonderful patrons who have helped fund not only buying these kits, but also the products I use to make them. That's it for now, but as always, until the next video, take care, and of course, model on.